Hey, so our Bible study today is going to be on the parable of the Good Samaritan. This is in Luke chapter 10, verse 30. We're going to start a little bit ahead in verse 25 just to give us some context for the story. So, one day an expert in religious law stands up to ask Jesus, "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" This is when Jesus replies with a question for the expert, asking him, "What does the law of Moses say, and how do you read it?" The man answers, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." So Jesus says, "Right, do this and you will live." The man, wanting to justify his actions, asks Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" So during this time, an expert in religious law would have been a Pharisee, and this is the parable of the Good Samaritan. So the Pharisee and the Samaritans would not have been allies, friends, and the Pharisee would not have considered the Samaritan his neighbor. So he's asking Jesus to clarify who his neighbor is because he wants to limit who his neighbor would have been, wanting to appear righteous without actually being righteous. So righteousness only comes from God. So then Jesus goes on to say, a Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. So by chance, a priest comes along, but when he sees the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passes by to the other side. Then a despised Samaritan comes along, and when he sees the man, he feels compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothes his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Then Jesus asked, "Now which of these 3 would you say was the neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits?" The man replies, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus says, "Yes, now go and do the same." So this priest and this temple assistant, also known as a Levite, they saw the man lying there, and they walked over and passed by to the other side. So these are people who would have been considered neighbors to this Jewish man who was attacked by bandits. Then I like how it says the despised Samaritan. He sees this man and feels compassion for him. Somebody who this Jewish person, this Jewish man probably wouldn't feel compassion for. If he saw this Samaritan laying on the side of the road, he probably wouldn't have stopped. But Jesus makes this Samaritan the hero of the story to show this expert in religious law that there is no limits or boundaries to who your neighbor would be, regardless of race, ethnicity, even religion, because Samaritans and Pharisees were not the same, practicing the same religious beliefs at this point. Those don't limit your kindness and your love that you show people. We are just supposed to be vessels for God's love and kindness. And a lot of the times we limit ourselves, based on what someone looks like, talks like, based on their beliefs, whether they're political, religious. We are just called to show God's love to other people. And a lot of times I feel like we get so caught up in what things look like that we forget that we're supposed to be vessels for God's love. So if this story does anything for you like it did for me, I just hope it encourages you what a true neighbor means and how we should be going about our day-to-day lives, being true neighbors to people. So I hope that this story gave you a new outlook on who your neighbor is, and I hope it touched you today. So thanks for tuning in.